What's up guys, I'm ThePopRocker back with another video. If you don't remember or you haven't seen it, a few months back I made a video detailing my experience buying and listening to every album by a-ha. And it was so fun, I decided I'd do it again. But who could match that level of guilty pleasure? I could pick a boy band, of course. Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block, O-Town, but let's be honest. Boy bands are kind of everybody's guilty pleasure, and that's no fun. And I realized that that person is the pinkest Barbie, Roman Zelensky herself, Nicki Minaj. Now, it might surprise you to know that someone with such a cultured prestige as myself knows every word of super bass, but you're probably being prejudiced or something. I am a huge Nicki Minaj fan. I don't know what the name of her fans is, and I wouldn't call myself it if I did, but I am that. So naturally, and here's the twist you all can see coming, I haven't listened to a single one of her albums from beginning to end. So I set out to change that today. Now, Nicki Minaj only has 4 albums compared to the 10 that a-ha has, so I'll be going through each one individually. But before we can do that, I can't make this video without first mentioning her mixtape days. So let's start there. Before her debut album, Minaj released 3 mixtapes: Playtime Is Over, Sucker Free, and Beam Me Up Scotty. Well, they are all good. Very good. Especially Beam Me Up Scotty. I feel like that needs to be known up front. But they aren't obviously up to the same quality as her albums, which is why I'm not actually considering them for this video, but there is kind of a narrative that makes them necessary listening if I'm going to keep going. Nicki Minaj was hailed in her early days as she was coming up as one of the greatest, something that no one had ever really seen or heard before, something completely new to the genre. And as her fan base grew and she gained more and more popularity, her original hardcore fan base began to turn on her, feeling that she was drifting away from the sound that they had grown to love. Now, depending on how you look at it, Minaj is either one of the first of her generation or one of probably dozens of artists to fall to this curse. Now, I can definitely see both sides of the argument, but if you ask me, being upset that the artist you wanted to get popular wants to then make popular music is a bit absurd, and in her case, a little bit toxic. While she definitely had mainstream success early in her career, this mindset may have led to her downfall later on. But I don't know for sure, I wasn't there. I'm not here to discuss the politics, I'm here for the music. I should just start off right now by saying this is my favorite of all of her albums. Done. From the very first notes, Pink Friday is so nostalgic for the Young Money era that you can't help but love it. Unless you're one of those people that hated the Young Money era, in which case, bye. The cotton candy synths and optimistic beats are probably not for everyone when I lay it out like that, honestly. But man, what a time to be alive. And it wasn't just Nicki or Young Money in general. This was the same era that gave us TikTok, Down, Let It Rock, Dynamite, Don't Trust Me. Everything was poised for someone as eclectic, colorful, talented as Nicki Minaj to really make a name for herself in that era. And all of that's just from the first track. Track 2, Roman's Revenge, highlights a much darker and more serious side of the artist. In case anyone thought she was just a bubblegum pop rapper, she showed here that she was the woman who could do both. This is where she highlighted the weird vocal changes that she would somewhat become known for in her career, which, while maybe a weird thing for someone to do, really make the songs a lot more fun to sing along to. Except for her Roman character. I'm not really going to get into it much here because I don't like talking about it, but I hate it and it's the worst British accent I've ever heard. But I just like to pretend that it never happens. Back to the song though, at this point, you've seen most of what Minaj has to offer in a condensed period of time, of course, and you're almost sold on her as an artist, and then Eminem shows up on her track and doesn't outshine her at all. There are very few rappers I've heard that don't get completely embarrassed by Eminem when he throws a verse on their song, and she's one of them. And while he also isn't necessarily in his best form here, this isn't an Eminem to turn your nose up at. This is recovery era Eminem. This is Love the Way You Lie Eminem. He was at his best since his Marshall Mathers LP, and Nicki Minaj held her own and arguably did better on the same track. Anyway, enough fangirling. Pink Friday goes on to highlight some fantastic features, a video killed the radio star sample, and some downright classic songs. And that's before you even get to the deluxe tracks. I listened to the deluxe versions of every album so that I could try to stretch the content as much as possible, which, spoiler, didn't end up being necessary. But this is the album where there's a very stark difference between the two sets of tracks. It doesn't help that the bonus content started with Super Bass, the song that catapulted Nicki Minaj to superstar status. But even with the other tracks, you can tell that this is where the pop star top of the charts money had started to roll in, because the production's just that much better on them. Overall, I'd say this album is an 8 out of 10 for me. Even at the parts where I didn't like it, I liked it. From talent to performance to poppiness, Minaj is firing on all cylinders here. Now, it would make sense that all of this would continue on to her next album, Pink Friday, Roman Reloaded. But did it? Yeah, it did. I don't really know why I set it up like that. Checking Facebook in the middle of recording my video. Roman Reloaded feels like the perfect follow-up album. It evolves the sound that Minaj had become known for, but shies away a little bit more from the pop sound, which is good, because as we said, popular artists making popular music equals bad. And yes, guy who's already in the comments talking about Starship without hearing me out first, it does still have a lot of pop on it to appease fans like myself, but this album had a little bit more edge to it. Which makes sense, because that Young Money style that I talked about before was already starting to give way to a darker sounding era in music. Which is probably because a lot of millennials had started to graduate from high school and realized how much life sucks, and they wanted their music to reflect that. Minaj was quoted as saying, "My first album, I was very guarded. I felt like I was making music to please everyone else. I had to be politically correct. But this album, I am just creating music, and there's such a big difference." And while listening to this, I really can't tell that at all. They both seem equally as fun, so I guess take that how you want. Roman Reloaded definitely gave me everything that Pink Friday did, but it didn't land quite as much. So I gave this one a 7.5. Going through my notes, I had a mixed feeling on some of these songs. Some of them, like Starships and the title track Roman Reloaded, were major highlights for me. Then there were others like Bees in the Trap and Sex in the Lounge that weren't my favorites. But then I hit track 15 and I realized, oh, we're still going. And then I hit track 19 and realized, yeah, we're still going. And by the time I got to track 22, I was exhausted. And that's before you add in the re-up tracks, the bonus EP that, yes, I did listen to, but I don't have anything new to say about. And yeah, part of all this is because I did listen to the deluxe versions, but even still, if you're going to have an album that's more than, say, 14 tracks, it's your job to craft an experience that makes it easier to keep the listener engaged. That's all small potatoes though, because I'm pretty sure even in 2012, I was one of the only people still listening to albums all the way through. My other issue here was with the quality of music. Hear me out. On Pink Friday, Minaj kind of had something to prove. She was getting her moment in the spotlight and had to do everything she could to prove she belonged at the top. It felt like every verse was perfected before it ever went into a studio. Here, I didn't quite get the same feeling, which is understandable. She had already proven herself before, so she had a little bit more room to be comfortable with herself here. And that's not to say Roman Reloaded didn't deliver, because it did. It just didn't over-deliver, if that makes sense. It's kind of like how your first 2 weeks at a new job, you do everything you can to put your best foot forward. You show up 5 minutes early for every shift, freshly ironed and cleaned uniform. You're friendly and nice to everyone, a little bit more than you usually would be. But once you've been there a few months and you've kind of settled in, you've shown that you're willing to do the job, you get a little bit more lax on all of that. Roman Reloaded is like the real Nicky, except it might not even be that. I really don't want to veer off the musical path and talk about the gossip in Nicki Minaj's life, but it feels almost impossible to talk about this next album without bringing up her relationship with Safari. For anyone who doesn't know, which probably isn't really anyone at this point, Nicki Minaj was in a 12-year relationship with a rapper named Safari. In late 2011, I think, sometime around there, they broke up. I don't really care to verify the details. The why and how also aren't really any concern to me. The only reason I bring it up is to talk about the ghostwriting allegations. Since their breakup, Safari has claimed and retracted and claimed again that he helped write most, if not all, of Nicki Minaj's songs, including her hits. Obviously, she denies all of it, and there's some rappers that back her up, but it's kind of hard to deny completely. Safari does have a very similar rap style to Nicki Minaj on most of his solo songs, and they obviously spent a lot of time together during the process of making Pink Friday and Roman Reloaded. If you ask me personally, based on the research I've done, I don't think Safari did enough or contributed enough to really be considered a ghostwriter. I think Nicki Minaj has her own talent and did almost everything she has done on her own. But I do think that he maybe contributed some lines, maybe gave some constructive criticism, and helped mold most of these songs into what they were. And I think the biggest evidence of all of this is that the Pink Print is kind of whack. The Pink Print is the first album to be made after their breakup and her third album overall, and honestly, the energy is just different. First of all, there's a more somber tone to the whole thing, with more serious and introspective lyrics. There are rumors that some of the songs on the album are about the breakup with Safari, and honestly, I don't really get where the rumors are coming from. It's obviously about the relationship. You don't get out of a long-term relationship, then write an album with songs that have the chorus, "I still love you," and have it not be about your ex. Yeah, they're obviously about him, and also I don't see what there is to gossip about. Nicki Minaj isn't exactly the first person to write songs about her breakup. It's not just the lyrics though, the sadness bleeds into the production as well. Just take the summer bop from this album, The Night Is Still Young, and compare it to songs like Super Bass or Starships, and you'll see what I mean. It feels more like someone who's partying through the pain rather than living their best life. But that's not the big hit of the album. Anaconda is, and Anaconda isn't a sad song. Shut up. Songs like that feel out of place on the album, and also Anaconda sucks. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying the down tone of the album is what I didn't like about it. If anything, it's the best part. This album feels real in the way that I think she imagined Roman Reloaded would feel. No, my biggest problems are that the rapping feels different this time. I wonder why. And also that the song kind of start to bleed together at one point. From the start, I had a hard time keeping up with whether I was on track 1 or 3 or 4 or 7 or 12. It probably didn't help that this album felt as long as the last one too. Maybe I shouldn't have bought the deluxe albums. Anyway, I felt this one was a 5.5 out of 10, which is a shame because there's some really great songs on here. They just kind of get lost in the shuffle. Which brings us to Queen. This album feels like the completion of Nicki Minaj's arc. If her discography is telling a coming-of-age story as an artist, then this album is the finale where she comes out fully grown and reflects on the person she has become. It's more mature than her previous entries. It's more honest in the fact that it knows it doesn't need to be too honest. The beats and production on it make those from Pink Friday look more teenage in response. Look, I really don't know how else to explain what I'm saying other than how I'm saying it. Minaj was born into the industry, raised in it, hurt by it, and then healed herself to stand as the queen that she is. Musically though, it's kind of boring to listen to, in my opinion. Any individual song that you pick is probably going to be good, but listening to all 20 songs at once is a lot. They bleed together even more than they did on the Pink Print, and it got to the point where it felt like I was listening to a blanket of Nicki Minaj song while my mind just went elsewhere. The rapping and the songs were a little bit better, so I've got to give this album a 6 out of 10. But I think the most telling sign that this isn't the Nicki Minaj she used to be is the track Majesty, where Eminem shows up and finally outdoes her on a song. In September of 2019, Nicki Minaj revealed in a tweet that she was retiring from music to start a family. About a month or so later, she clarified that she still had some features and other songs to be released, and the retirement was in reference to her solo career, that we wouldn't be seeing a 5th album. This weekend, Nicki Minaj released the first single from her 5th album. So that was a lie. Hi there, future editor me here. As it turns out, Nicki Minaj did not in fact release a single from her 5th album. She instead re-released her mixtape Beam Me Up Scotty with some new songs that are probably diss tracks pointed at Cardi B. So, while it wasn't a lie, it was a stunt that ruined my video. Thanks, Nicki. I wanted to write a profound ending for this like I did last time. A reflection of what I'd learned listening to the whole career of Nicki Minaj. And honestly, I think there's a story to be told there about finding your identity in a society that has already tried to decide one for you, about not letting people take credit for who you are, and about having the courage to be that person in front of everyone. But at the end of the day, all I can really reflect on is how good of a song Super Bass is. It's Barbie, bitch! Hi, future me again, doing the outro that past me forgot to do. How do you feel about Nicki Minaj? Do you agree with everything I said? Do you disagree? Let me know. Do you have any other artists whose full careers you'd like to see me listen to and review? Let me know again down in the comments, or as always, you can find me at any of my socials. If you like what you see, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and most importantly, tell your friends. As always, I've been the Pop Rocker, and I'll see you guys in the next video.